Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your questions today. So start putting those questions in the comments. Today is going to be a short session, so I only want to focus on questions. But while you put your questions in, what I am going to say is just make sure that you go ahead, click on the link in the profile to be able to schedule your own appointment, because that is where you're going to get the information needed to determine how we can help you, how you can qualify, and how you can get closer to the work permit and your own papers here in the US. So please make sure you go to the link in the profile, go to the link in the description of the video. Hi there on Instagram, nice to see you, so that you can schedule your own appointment. Call the office as well. Thanks so much for the love. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to answer questions. So start putting those questions in the comments so that I can see your questions. I-130 approved on 2022. So when they're gonna ask for documentation from the NVC, oh well, if you are in a category of immigrants where it's going to take a number of years, then it's when your priority date is gonna be current. I did a whole video of that on YouTube. So if a whole full length video, about 15-minute video on explaining how you're gonna find out how or when the NVC is gonna start processing your case. So you have to wait for your priority date to become current, and to know that you have to go to the National Visa Center. Go to my channel on YouTube. It's Getting the Green Card, and look under videos, and you'll see one that talks about, I believe, spouses of residents. Why does it take so long? But it does explain why it takes so long for even adult children of US citizens and permanent residents as well. What's the next step after being called for biometrics? So it depends on the process. If it's family-based adjustment of status, you said, then if you applied for the work permit, the next thing could be the work permit. I applied for U visa, I got approved. How long does it take to get the work permit? So if you got deferred action, then right away, within 2 weeks, you're gonna get that work permit. What do you do at the medical? So at the medical, the main reason for the medical is they want to make sure that whatever health, if you do have any health issues, it's not going to cause an inadmissibility or affect your eligibility for whatever benefit you're applying for, usually the green card. So they test for drugs, drug use, they test for certain diseases that may render you inadmissible. They also test for certain mental illnesses. So not test, but they will evaluate you for certain mental illnesses that may also render you inadmissible. Now, when I say certain mental illness, it's usually mental illnesses that render you a danger to yourself or others, or have in the past. So they'll evaluate all of those conditions to see, and usually they'll take your blood, they'll look at your vaccinations. That's also very important. You'll take your vaccinations, or the doctor will suggest the vaccinations that you have to take so that you can continue to be admissible. We need a co-sponsor but cannot find one for a marriage-based green card. What are the other options? There are none. It's either you have a sponsor or you're exempt from it. So you have to have a sponsor, or you have to increase your income. What's your thought on PIP prevailing September 23rd? So we'll have to see what the arguments are. The government has a pretty strong position that they have the authority to issue PIP. Traditionally, the government has always had that right to issue a PIP. So I think they have a really good shot. Now, usually on the 23rd, I don't know if I haven't checked on it lately, but I don't know if on the 23rd they're going to be making an argument as to why they should extend or not extend the ban on making any decisions on the PIP right now. It's not likely that they're going to have a final trial by September 23rd. But if the judge can lift the bar, it would at least be a temporary victory until the government can finalize a solid final victory. How long for a 601A after request for evidence? So it depends. You could be looking at 2 months, a few weeks to 2 months. Asylum is terminated, have travel permit through VAWA. Can I go to my country? So this one is a hard one because even though your asylum is terminated, it is still on the record that you submitted an asylum application that stated you can't go back to your country. And it really depends on the facts here. I mean, you're never supposed to submit a false or frivolous asylum application, but if somehow you state that you are not safe in your country, and then all of a sudden you're terminating your asylum to go and then get a travel document to go back to the country you said you couldn't go back to, that could raise possible issues of potential fraud or filing a frivolous application, and you don't want that. So I would say get legal advice. I applied for I-130, I-485 together in December 2022. Is it normal that I'm still waiting? Yes. Well, I-130 depends on who you're applied through and whether you qualify for that. Can a stepchild at the age of 18 sponsor my husband? No, they have to be 21 years old. Do you help migrants illegal path? No, I do not help people to cross the border illegally. That's not my job. Nobody should be doing that, by the way. Shouldn't be crossing the border just for crossing's sake. I know that and now there are very strict regulations in place that control that. But keep in mind that there comes very severe consequences for crossing the border without permission. When you do that, when it's time to apply for your green card, you find that it's going to be a lot more complex. Some people don't even qualify for anything. What I do, though, is those who have made that journey already, who are here, and you need help to fix the situation, that's what we do, right? But I'm not saying that you should get up and go across the border and then come seek help from me, because it really depends on the facts involved. And the whole point isn't to encourage you to come in that way. It's to help those who are here, who's in that situation, who wants to get legal to fix that situation. How much do you think it costs for a marriage fee to get a green card, including attorney fees? So it depends on the attorney. Like for me, I have to do the consultation first. It's $150, and then I can provide you a quote for that. All right, let's see here. Can I renew my passport while I'm on child support? So it depends. You can absolutely, but in some cases, if you're on child support, and it depends. So, for example, if you have a U.S. passport, you're on child support, it's delinquent. Sometimes they can withhold renewing your passport. After a person receives their citizenship, are they totally finished with USCIS? Please and thank you. Yes, yes. You have to be a responsible citizen, of course. You have to make sure you maintain your papers. As long as you maintain your papers, you're done with USCIS. For T status, if you have no physical presence, can you still qualify? So it's no. So T status is for those who are in the United States and who have been the victims of trafficking. And of course, you always hear me say trafficking comes in different forms. So don't get lost in the stereotypical definitions of trafficking, that it has to involve physical force or violence or restraint. But what I would say is that it's very, uh, now, physical presence is there, whether you mean physical, oh, you said no. Okay, physical evidence. Okay, so it's not physical presence. So we're talking about physical evidence. So in this case, here's what I let you know. Physical evidence. Do you have your memory? Do you remember what happened to you? That's physical evidence, right? If you can tell me what happened to you, what you endured, what was done, what were you forced to do, that's enough. And all of my clients do retain most of their memories about what happened to them. That's enough. And so that's where I say, give me a call and then we can file your application. What we do is we put your memories onto paper in the form of your declaration, and that's accepted as a form of physical evidence by the officers. If your spouse was married 4 times, can they marry again and start filing? The spouse is a citizen. It's possible, but I need to understand the facts. Were they married 4 times to 4 different immigrants and then got the immigrants' papers, and now they're doing it for a 5th time? That is possible, but they're going to pay very special attention to your case. If they're married 4 times previously, but this is the first time they're applying for papers for their spouse, then that's not necessarily too much of a red flag. They just want to know that the marriage between you and your US citizen spouse is genuine. How long case is being actively reviewed by USCIS N600? You still could be looking at up to 9 months, 12 months, even though it's saying it's actively being reviewed. Can it take less than 6 months? So how long does it take for an asylee to open a green card? Can it take less than 6 months? If you qualify for adjustment of status, it's possible. It depends on their processing times, and you can always check on that at the USCIS website. I also need work permit. How can I get it? Um, Oh, so give us a call. Let's schedule some time to talk, and then we'll talk about possible avenues for you to get the work permit. Now, how much time for work permit in US visa? Now, one thing I want to warn you about is if you're outside of the country, and I've heard of a disturbing trend where and I noticed that many of so there was a scammer, I believe she was Guyanese, and she had been promising people their work permits even when they were coming on their visas. She would file fraudulent applications, call them up and say she got their work permit, and then they would fly in with a visa and get this work permit. Now, keep in mind that if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, right? You have to qualify in some way for these benefits. You should not be letting anybody file any papers without you looking at it, without you understanding what they're putting in this paperwork. Because this woman now that I'm hearing about, I've heard multiple people tell me about this issue. Now she's arrested, and now even the people she did this for could be potentially be on the hook for fraud, right? Or unless they can show through a U visa that they were the victim of a crime, they were her victims as well, which they very well were. But I just want to warn you that just don't, if you're outside of the country, nobody can get you a work permit, right? Work permits are for people who are here. And furthermore, even when you're here, not everybody gets a work permit. You have to qualify. And this is exactly why we do the consultation, because the consultation allows us to determine whether you qualify for the work permit. If you want to be able to come here from outside of the country to work, you need to get an employer to sponsor you to come. With the changes for T visa, what you talked about weeks ago, how long will the EAD take to be approved? We don't know because this is brand new. So we have to see. Usually, the way they develop the processing times is through experience. So they haven't released that information yet. But based on my experience, whenever they are going to release work permits like this, it could possibly take anywhere from 6 months to 12 months to be for them to issue these work permits. The T visa, so why I think it's going to be less than 6 months is because to make the decision on the T visa alone takes about 12 months. So if they're issuing an EAD to alleviate any stress while they make a decision, then it has to be less than that 1 year mark, because there's no sense in processing work permits for a visa application that you're going to issue the work permit, then issue the visa approval and issue a work permit again. So that's the reason I think it's going to be a shorter period of time. But keep in mind, this is new. But what's exciting is this option is available. But we still have to watch, wait, and see what their processing times look like. Right now, we're like busy bees in the office. We're getting these ready. Our clients that we're applying for, we're sending all these work permits now with their packets so that they can get started on this process. So get on it. It's great news, and you should make sure you're one of the first. Can I apply for a work visa while in an F1 without exiting the country? Under certain extraordinary circumstances, if you are facing extreme hardships, the work permit might be an option for you. Now, with the work visa, you'll change from F1 to some work visa category, but it's going to be considered as status. And there may be some limitations on the way that you can travel. So definitely make sure you get some legal advice about that. What about the B1, about EB1 visa, EB2 for a master's student? So it depends on your specific qualifications for that. How long before you can get your travel documents if filing T status? After approval. Now, keep in mind that this is still the issuance of a travel document is on a case by case basis. It is not an entitlement to get the travel document, and you still need to make sure you're very careful about how you approach the travel, because a part of the T visa approval process is also showing that you'll face extreme hardship if you go back to your country. And so if you take a travel document and then you go back to your country and it somehow contradicts your application, you could have major problems at the green card stage when you're going from T status to green card. So keep in mind that the point of the T status is not necessarily to get a travel document. The travel document is available on a case by case basis, but the T status is really there to get you relief so that you can live and work anywhere you want to in the US, and you can be able to get to the green card. Once you do have the green card, you definitely have more flexibility. But don't just get up and treat the travel document, don't treat it casually under the T status as well, because there are risks associated with it. I reapplied recently for my 10-year green card after my husband divorced me without finishing my paperwork, and I got a 4-year extension for me and my boys. How soon can I apply for citizenship? So with citizenship, it's gonna be 3 years if your spouse mistreated you. If the spouse didn't mistreat you, it's gonna be 5 years. Would you help your client with reporting to law enforcement for T visa? We handle everything. We make sure that we represent our clients, hold our clients' hands through the entire process, and our clients are very comfortable and feel safe with us. And we do ensure our clients' safety and confidentiality. So, absolutely. Uh, how long is the I-130 taking now when adjusting your status? So usually the I-130 is decided at the same time as adjustment of status. It depends on what kind of adjustment of status, what family relationship you're applying for. But if you're the immediate relative of a US citizen, then you're looking at about under a year, 10 months to 12 months. Please, is VAWA applicable to applicants outside the US? Yes. Now, it depends though on the facts. So, one, if you're outside of the US, your spouse was a military member or worked for the federal government, then you don't necessarily have to show the residency requirement, and it's fine to move forward with the VAWA application. Outside of the country, they're just going to process it at the embassy. Now, if you at some point lived in the United States and now you're outside of the US, you can still qualify for this because the abuse happened in the United States. When you get your advance parole with your work permit, filing marriage base, can you travel freely? I wouldn't, I would say this with the advance parole. I don't want you to have the misconception that you should be just getting up and taking trips every few weeks, or that you can just get up and travel. You always have to take consideration of the risk involved, especially when it comes to your facts. But it's there for that, it's there for international travel. I had my N400 interview, no response, and it's been 120 days. What do I do? You have to contact them to just make sure everything, they didn't send you anything, and check on the status. How long is the wait for interview? States 2 to 3 months, been waiting for over 4 months. Yeah, that estimator they have is very annoying and it's very inaccurate. My husband entered illegal at 18, later was granted V2. It expired 2013, so I'm not sure what a V2 is. What option does he have? So definitely get in touch with us. I'm not sure what the V2 is. My husband, can I apply for EAD while waiting on a decision for I-140 EB2? If your priority date is current, you can apply for adjustment of status, and at that point, you could get the work permit. Applying for withholding of removal and have hearing next year. Can I get the work permit? If you're applying for withholding of removal based on asylum, you should be able to get the work permit and asylum. So usually asylum and maybe in the alternative withholding of removal and or CAT, right, as alternatives to asylum. And in that case, you could apply for the work permit. So, and once you're granted withholding of removal, can I have advance parole while my T is in process? No. So you can't do advance parole while the T is in process. If you leave the country, you get, it means that your case will be terminated. How long after filing a T is it approved? About 1 year right now. But keep in mind, they just released new regulations that have clarified that they will now start allowing for the issuance of work permits while they make a decision. Can someone file for their over 21 daughter as a US citizen? It's going to be a 5 to 7 year process. It's possible. How long is a T visa process? I'm on YouTube now. So it's about a year. And that's the exciting part about the new regulations is that they're looking at a process to help provide more options for applicants and more relief through a bona fide determination letter that can help with benefits while they wait. So that benefits like medical, food assistance, housing in different states. and then also help them to issue a work permit earlier. I have applied for my green card through marriage base. My case is still pending. Can my spouse also apply for my kids for previous marriage? As long as you got married to your US citizen spouse before your kids turned 18, yes, they can move forward. And we've done that. We've applied for stepchildren at the same time that the marriage based process was going forward, even when it wasn't approved. Is there an interview for the T visa? No. So usually there's not. They always reserve the right for an interview, to schedule an interview with every case. They always reserve the right to do an interview. But in in most cases, I'd say 99.9% of cases, there is no interview. How they investigate T, especially if the employer is legal company and the person is they don't investigate. So immigration does not investigate. That's where it's confidential. That is not the job of immigration. Immigration are the ones that look at the evidence in front of them and determine whether you qualify based on what we provide to them. So, don't, with in regards to investigations, they don't do that. They look at the credible evidence, and this is where we make sure we provide them all the information they need to make a decision. I want to know, I submitted my I-130 and I-485 and I-131, a work permit on 3/1/2024 through marriage base. I got my social work permit in June, but still no travel document. Sometimes they send the travel document later on, and that can be frustrating. It can take up to a year for them to issue that travel document. I filed for VAWA mid-March. If you have an emergency though, King Landa, that's where you need to make sure to submit an emergency request for the travel document. I filed for VAWA mid-March from Mexico. I still cross over every other week to get groceries. Could I still move into the States, file for the green card? I'm married to an American citizen. I would want to understand, how are you crossing over with a visa? This is very complex, but we are here to sift through your complex facts and come up with a solution. But I want to know how you're crossing over. Is it through a visa? Or what's the nature of you crossing? And then we can decide the best option to go forward. When can I get my EAD in VAWA? It's been 6 months, so it's taking anywhere from 6 to 12 months. I don't know if it's because we only send in basic as it relates to evidence, just the forms, and medical was sent in. Yeah, if you only send the forms and medical, I can tell you right now that's gonna be a problem. So let's see. Yeah, so if you just send forms and medical, that's going to be a problem. How often there's usually a movement in the visa bulletin? I'm afraid I will have a long wait. I applied for VAWA, the abuser's green card holder. So we didn't have a long wait. We had 8 months wait for spouses of a resident, and we're filing. We just were able, after 8 months, we were able to file the adjustment of status for our clients. So, it's about 8 months, but it could be much worse, could be years in some cases. But in this case, we saw movement in 8 months. All right, I'm going to head out. I'm just going to look for more questions. I'm on Instagram. Um, People who are pending Biden and waiting approval, is it true that the supporter has to do fingerprints now in order for their case to be reviewed? Still move forward with fingerprints. They just can't make any decisions, but they're still accepting applications. Is there an interview for AOS for green card from K1 visa? So they've been waiving interviews. So if you submit a strong AOS application, that's adjustment of status application, you could get that waived. So they could if they had additional questions, but we're finding that when our applications are really strong, they have no questions, they're just issuing the green card. Is there an interview for VAWA? No, there's no interview. How does it take an asylee for the green card process to be processed? So after they get asylum, you have to show physical presence in the US for 1 year and then apply for the green card. Can I start applying for my mother while waiting? If you're not a US citizen, you can't file for your mother. When you get your advanced parole, okay, I answered that. Now, one thing I wanted to mention with the T, take this away. Now, the T visa, I talk a lot about it, and it is also there in cases where you are under the age of 21 and you have a parent or you have a sibling or siblings who are under 18 who are unmarried, they can get their papers with you. So if you're under 21, your spouse, your children, your parents, and your siblings can get T status with you. So it can benefit your entire family. Another exception is if you were going through labor trafficking or even sex trafficking, and one of the things that happened is that your family members were threatened, even if they're outside of the US, your family members, like your siblings, even if you're over 21, your siblings, adult siblings, married siblings, adult children who are over 21 were also threatened. Like this person said, if you don't do this, I'm going to go find your family in the other country or here in the US, and I'm going to attack them. Then they can qualify with you, right? We'd have to make sure that we can present information showing how they threatened your family. But if they did, then those family members, regardless of your age, can also get T status with you. So I did want to mention that part as well. So it's beneficial to you to get protection while you go through the confidential process, but also for your family. All right. Thanks everyone for your time. I really appreciate the questions. I'm going to work on being back tomorrow as usual. So if I didn't get to your questions, save your questions for tomorrow. Thanks for the love on TikTok, by the way. Now, save your questions for tomorrow. I'll hop on. I'll answer some more questions tomorrow. All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. I appreciate it. Hi, Donna. Thanks so much. All right. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Have you had any approval T visa from AZ Technologies fraud? If it's fraud, you can do it. Give us a call. If you are the victim of fraud in your employment, give us a call.